let's go ahead and call the regular meeting of the Calaveras County Planning Commission to order and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, which stands with indivisible, liberty, justice.
Are there any staff announcements or agenda changes?
None, Madam Chair, with the exception that there might have been some additional information that we received after the agenda had been sent that has been provided to you this morning and may have been sent to you and posted on the county's website related to item number 3.
Thank you. Then we will move on to the general public comment period. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to any item of interest or within the subject purview of the Planning Commission that is not on the agenda today. So is there anybody here who would like to provide public comment?
Excuse me, Chair Plotnick, we need to swear in the chair and the vice chair.
Oh, yes. Is somebody here to do that? Okay.
Well, we need to
We'll
take
go
a
ahead and
vote.
make some,
I propose that we go ahead with the election of the chair and the vice chair. And if there can be,
I will second that.
okay. So
maybe you'll come along with this one too.
someone that would like to make a motion for the position of chair.
I move that our current chair continue in the chair. She's been doing such a great job, so I nominate Michelle Plotnick for chair.
And I definitely second that.
But you might.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Passes. 3, 1, 0, and 1 open position. However you guys do your numbers. Then we need to propose a vice chair. And I hate to do this to him.
I'll make a motion that we keep Hector is going to be the vice chair, I hope.
And is there a second on that?
Second, the nomination of Hector for vice chair.
So can we do that, Julie, given that he's not here to agree?
There's 3 of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll teach him.
Yes, yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Thank you, everybody. Sorry, Annette. I looked around for someone to swear us in, didn't see anybody, and moved right on. So I assume somebody's going to show up and take care of that. So no general public comment today. All right, we'll close the public comment period, move on to the consent agenda, which do we have 3 people for? We don't for all these items.
No, I would suggest
We continue the entire slate of minutes.
yes.
So do we have a motion on that?
I move that we continue the entire slate of minutes on the consent agenda to our next meeting.
I will second that.
Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on the consent agenda? None. All in favor of continuing the consent agenda to our next meeting with 4 commissioners present?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Thank you. Then we will get started with item 1, 2022-020, zoning amendment and conditional use permit for California Waste Recovery Systems, which I believe Maddie's here for, but we need to offer the applicant the opportunity to continue this item since there are only 3 commissioners here today, and it will require a unanimous decision. So, come on up.
Good morning. I'm Jack Fiore. I'm with California Waste Recovery Systems, and thank you for the opportunity to comment on the shorter commission this morning, but we are fine with moving forward.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, take it away, Madeline.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So this is project number 2022-020, which is a zoning amendment and conditional use permit for the California Waste Recovery Systems, which I'll be referring to as Cal Waste. As the 3 of you recall, we had this item at the last hearing on September 28th, which is for a conditional use permit and zoning amendment of APN 040-004-021, amending the zoning from business park, which is M4, to general industrial, which is M2, in order to expand the operations at the existing Cal Waste solid waste transfer station in Valley Springs. The CUP and the ZA was approved by the commission, and the item was scheduled to go to the Board of Supervisors in October. However, after reviewing the board packet, the supervisors expressed some concerns regarding the CEQA analysis, specifically in regards to the traffic impacts. So the item was pulled from the board agenda in order for additional traffic analysis to be conducted. So this item is being brought back to the commission as per the recommendation of the county CEO, to review the vehicle miles traveled assessment that was conducted, and for your review of the revised CEQA initial study and negative declaration before taking it to the board. So as you might recall, Cal Waste currently operates a medium volume transfer station at 3524 Double Springs Road in Valley Springs. The facility is currently permitted to accept just under 100 tons of mixed municipal waste, garbage, and recycling. There are no general public or self-haul vehicles that are currently allowed to, that are currently accepted at the site. It's only the Cal Waste collection trucks that come in. And based on the initial study, those vehicles peak at 21 per day. So the proposed expansion would increase the permitted volume of waste to just under 250 tons per day, and would allow the general public, including residents, self-haul, commercial contractor vehicles, and other sources such as public agencies to dispose their waste at the facility with a charge. With the expansion, there's minor improvements to the project site being proposed, including the installation of a new organic waste bunker storage, an organic materials transfer operation, an outdoor construction and demolition, and debris processing line. There's no building expansions proposed. But under the proposed project conditions, the number of vehicles entering and exiting the transfer facility will now increase from a peak of 21 vehicles per day to 84 vehicles per day. So based on that, Cal Waste hired the transportation consulting firm Fair and Peers in November to conduct a vehicle miles traveled assessment in order to supplement the analysis in the initial study that was prepared by the De Novo Planning Group. Traffic engineers used the technical advisory on evaluating transportation impacts when CEQA is involved. And this document contains metrics for the engineers to use depending on the proposed use. However, it doesn't have metrics specific to waste disposal facilities. So what the assessment did, they used the recommendations for local serving retail uses, which asserts that those developments rarely generate new trips, they rather redistribute existing trips. So in the context of CEQA, locally serving retail really has a less than significant transportation impact. So this is what was used as the proposal to include self-hauling by the general public would not require residents to use this facility. It's just providing another option besides driving to the Rock Creek landfill. So they assert that a new waste disposal facility is simply increasing the choice of facility location, not increasing the amount of waste that's being generated by the county. And given this, the VMT assessment evaluated the distance between the various community areas in the county and Rock Creek landfill compared to the proposed project site. This is shown on table 417-1, which I believe is on page 5 and 6 of the VMT assessment. So they determined that the average driving distance per round trip for Rock Creek is 72.5 miles versus 45.9 miles for the project site. So based on that, the assessment concluded that the proposed project would actually reduce the vehicle miles traveled generated in the county overall, as it would provide an alternative disposal facility closer to most community areas rather than the existing Rock Creek landfill. So the supplemental VMT analysis further supports and reinforces the conclusions of the initial study and negative declaration that the proposed project would result in a less than significant impact relative to VMT. The results of the supplemental VMT were incorporated into a revised final version of the initial study from January of this year. Only the transportation section was amended, and I'm sorry, you got a huge packet that included the old version and the new version, and it wasn't a red line, so I'm hoping that you were able to just easily sort of find the changes that were done. It was only that section that was amended. And per section 15073.5 of CEQA, this updated draft didn't require recirculation because this is new information that was added merely to clarify, amplify, or make insignificant modifications to the initial study. And there's a memo that I'm sure you saw in the attachment there from De Novo that's further explaining this fact. So in conclusion, the data from the VMT assessment and the additional CEQA analysis does not change the proposed project, and therefore does not change its consistency with the general plan or Title 17, and it still meets all the findings for a zoning amendment and a conditional use permit. The supplemental VMT analysis further supports and reinforces the conclusions of the initial study that the proposed project would result in less than significant impacts relative to VMT. And the revisions of the negative declaration reveal that this project will still have a less than significant effect on the environment and did not require recirculation. And Mr. Fiore is here too, if you have any additional questions for him about the project or any of the additional work that has been done.
No question.
Yeah, are there any questions for Madeline? Is there anything that you would like to add? Thank you. Would we like to give the public an opportunity? Okay. Yes, so is there any member of the public who would like to speak to this item? No? Okay, so we'll close the public comment period on this item and probably come back to discuss the resolution.
Resolutions.
Resolutions. I'm going to start with the second resolution.
Okay.
Because it has the major problem that,
Number 007 for the zoning amendment?
yes, for the zoning amendment, which under our ordinances, we can't change the zoning. We can recommend the change of zoning to the Board of Board of Supervisors. So we need, actually, the body of the resolution is fine in that it just recommends the Board of Supervisors adopt. It's the title that needs to be changed, both recommending the approval of the zoning amendment, but also recommending the approval of the negative declaration, because it's the body that approves something that also needs to approve the CEQA documents. So I can leave it to you to change the language to make it so it is in the title, it's recommending.
Can you read me what your title says?
It
I had
says,
a resolution approving the negative declaration and approving zoning amendment so-and-so, amending the zoning of APN so-and-so from business park to general industrial for Calaveras Waste, and recommending the Board of Supervisors take the same action.
For some reason, my title is different.
Well, if your title has it right,
My title says a resolution recommending the Board of Supervisors adopt the negative declaration and approve zoning amendment 2022-020, amending the zoning of the subject parcel from M4 to M2 for Cal Waste.
yeah.
that's fine.
Okay, I don't know why we have two different titles on there.
Then my question on the other, well, let's see, is there anything else in that resolution? I didn't have anything else in that resolution. The first resolution, is there a problem with our approving a conditional use permit before the zoning change happens?
Yes, they need to happen concurrently. The CUP cannot be approved without the ZA.
Okay, so then I suppose then we really, even though we usually can approve a conditional use permit, I guess the change, maybe your title of the first one is recommending, but we should change that to recommending.
No, I think we still have to approve the conditional use permit upon
Okay,
adoption of the,
yes,
yeah.
that makes sense to me. Does that
Just
make?
make sure that it's a sequential thing.
Okay. How do you
I
want?
think planning has habitually taken the position that even though the planning commission can finally approve a use permit when it's combined with something the board has to approve, they've just taken the position to let the board approve both. And I don't see anything wrong with that either. So if that's more comfortable to the planning department to continue doing, I don't have an objection
So,
to that.
so today, should we recommend or should we approve the conditional use permit?
I think you could recommend approval of the conditional use permit
Okay.
if it has to go to the board anyway.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's good, and that actually, the body of the resolution indicates that.
Do we need to add anything under the be it therefore resolved to kind of put in
Anything for
anything?
what?
Under the be it therefore resolved?
No, that seems to be right.
Okay,
It's just recommending.
okay.
Uh,
No, adding no language upon approval of the ZA anywhere in, okay,
Julie's comfortable with it.
okay,
We're comfortable with it.
okay.
Okay.
Did you have anything else that you?
Oh, I had something that was really picky, and I'm not going to,
Save it for another day.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay. Then I believe unless you have, do you have anything, Dawn? I have nothing. My only question was related to the approving or recommending. So we're ready for the recommendation.
Okay, now I'm calling into question my wording on my recommendation here because we've been changing things around. So,
I'm sorry, I just wanted to, Gabriel, I thought that was the process before. Am I wrong that your process was to send them both to the board under those circumstances?
no, you're correct.
I think we need to make a clarification. The planning commission has a responsibility of approving the conditional use permit, but at the same time recommend the approval to the board of supervisors.
I think it's the zoning amendment that we're
So-
confused about.
The zoning amendment, the planning commission may recommend approval of the zoning amendment as well to the board of supervisors.
But they're not approving the
We don't
zoning
approve the
amendment.
Zoning amendment, we just recommend.
Okay,
Fix it on the fly there.
All right, ready for recommendation?
Yes.
Okay. Staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt the negative declaration and approve Planning Commission Resolution 2024-006, approving conditional use permit 2022-020 per the site development plan in the resolution, and approve Resolution 2024-007, amending the zoning of APN 040-004-021 from business park to general industrial, as shown in Exhibit A of the resolution, and recommending the Board of Supervisors do the same based on the findings and conditions therein.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the resolution as amended.
Second that.
Whoa.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Okay. Item 2, 2023-058, General Plan Amendment for Carson Hill Gold Mining Corporation. Is the applicant or the applicant's representative here?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. So we need to offer you the same option to continue the item.
Yes, we're good with continuing with the item.
Okay.
Okay.
So do we need to vote on that?
Continuing the item to another date?
No.
Oh, you want to continue today?
Yes, continue. Please, sorry. Misunderstood.
Not
Yeah,
continue
I'll-
to a different date.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, and thank you, Madeline.
Of course.
It-
Then I believe, Madeline, it's yours again.
Yes. Give me just 1 second here. Okay. Give me just 1 more second. All right, so this is project 2023-058, general plan amendment for Carson Hill Gold Mining Corporation. So the proposal is to amend the general plan land use designation of an 11-acre portion of APN 064-015-007 from resource production to working lands for consistency with the adjacent parcel to the south in order to complete another lot line adjustment. We have lots of these for you guys. So the parcel is located here at 5141 Highway 49 in Angels Camp. It is approximately 69.95 acres in size. And I'm sorry, I highlighted the 11-acre portion, but I did not highlight the entire parcel. But it is extending to the east, and you can see the sort of orange boundary line that makes kind of a funny M shape at the top and then kind of loops around, covering that western portion of the pit there. So that's the entire subject parcel. So obviously this is part of the Carson Hill mine, which is permitted under a mine use permit that was approved in the late 90s. The operator has closed the site and has no intent to resume, and is currently working on fulfilling the requirements of the reclamation plan. This 11-acre portion of the subject parcel is outside of the pit, as you can see from the aerial there, and has never had any mining activities or ground disturbance occur within its bounds. The project will help facilitate the removal of this portion of the subject parcel from the mine's boundaries in order to sell this portion after approval of the lot line adjustment. So the resource production designation shown here in a light mint green identifies those lands for ag operations, timber, and mineral resource production. It's intended for parcels that are 40 to 160 acres in size. The proposed land use designation, working lands, is the designation of the parcel to the south, which identifies land suitable for smaller scale resource production for ag, timber, and mineral extraction on parcels that are smaller than those designated resource production. And it's intended for parcels that are 20 to 40 acres in size. The subject parcel is zoned A1ME, which is general agriculture with the mineral extraction combining zone, which is shown here in the bright green. And I'm sorry, this zoning exhibit is kind of hard to look at because there's a lot going on. The bright green with the hatched marks, that's the A1 with the ME combining zone. The A1 zone is intended to be the main resource production zone for general farming and ranching practices and is consistent with both the resource production and working lands designations. The mineral extraction combining zone applies to all existing and future mining operations requiring a reclamation plan. So a proposed lot line adjustment application was received in July of 2023 by the County Surveyor's Office and is awaiting approval of this general plan amendment to complete the process. The lot line adjustment proposes to reduce the subject parcel by 11 acres, which will be added to the adjacent parcel to the south, APN 064-015-005. If this is amended, the landowners could adjust the boundary between the two parcels without any land use designation conflicts. The application was routed for 30 days to various county departments, local public agencies, and state agencies. No comment letters were received from the Calaveras County Public Works Department and Environmental Management Agency. A letter was also received from Caltrans with standard requirements for an encroachment permit should any work be conducted within the right-of-way, but there's no proposal to develop the parcel with this project. Staff also initiated the required 90-day tribal consultation period for general plan amendments on October 10th, 2023, pursuant to the requirements of Senate Bill 18, but no responses were received from any tribes during this period. This activity is covered by the common sense exemption that CEQA only applies to projects which have the potential for causing a significant effect on the environment. Amending the land use designation of the subject parcel from resource production to working lands will not result in more intensive permitted uses being allowed to occur, but will instead facilitate the removal of a portion of the subject property from the Carson Hill Rock Products mine property through the lot line adjustment. The proposed land use designation is less intensive than the current land use designation, and the potential for a residential development won't change as one single-family residence and one accessory dwelling are permitted per legal parcel in the A1 zone. And this amendment and the subsequent lot line adjustment will not interfere with the landowner's ability to reclaim the remaining portion of the subject parcel. So in conclusion, staff finds that the proposed general plan amendment from resource production to working lands is consistent with the general plan, including the general plan implementation measures requiring review of development applications and compatibility with surrounding land uses and zoning. The change is from a more intensive land use designation to a less intensive one. No comments were received during the tribal consultation. And the project will not have a significant effect on the environment due to zoning restrictions and existing site limitations. Any questions for me?
Yeah, there's a difference in the descriptions or the depictions of the property. If you look at page 8 of your staff report and look at page 9 of your staff report, the parcel that's going to be split off is shaped differently.
Yeah, it doesn't have the little notch.
It doesn't have, or it does have the notch.
Yeah, right, depending on which one you're looking at.
And so, especially when we get down to the resolution, I think it's important that the resolution have an exhibit to it that shows what really we're dealing with. And whether it is 11.07 or maybe a little bit more.
Let me bring up.
Mostly is the little
Soon,
strip
soon you
that
get a full
touches the-
chance.
Do this again.
touches the roadway.
Madeline, the
Yes. Hang on one
applicant
second.
can provide some information.
Yeah, go ahead and come on.
Yes. So it is a little bit confusing, the way that, I wish I had a pointer, the way that the line is being adjusted. So, need to have a traveling microphone. So basically, this portion is being put onto this. This line is also being amended. So
And coming through.
parcel boundary is here. So this is all working lands. This is resource protection, this is the eliminated portion. But it is confusing the way that they're amending the line. Because coming here.
Well, it's, when you said that it's here, that's the line
Already there.
that in the, I would guess that page 9,
You're looking at the lot line adjustment exhibit.
yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So
What is the boundary in red?
The new parcel.
this
But-
map is using the assessor's map. And this line here, that is part of the old quarter line.
Right.
So this is confusing.
Well, and maybe, just in case I might have it here, does that mean that what we're seeing there is what's gonna end up after all the lot line adjustments?
Yes.
Okay, but what you're showing in green on page 8 is only what is being transferred over to the other parcel?
Yes.
Okay. Anyhow, I think we need to have an exhibit on the, and that's the 11.07 acres?
Yes.
Okay, then I think we need, now let's,
No worries.
the person that knows what starts.
So I'm the landman for BHP, which is the parent company to Carson Hill Gold Mining Company. To further explain a little bit, the tax assessor parcels do not match the land title in this area. Oftentimes, and part of that reasoning for us to purchase this land back to have our reclamation, we went into an agreement with Mr. Sutton, the former owner, who's here today also to back us up, to cut this part out and give to him based on the land title and do it the correct way for Calaveras County, right? By doing that, we also wanted to make sure that we still held the integrity of the mine, specifically the back of the pit. And that's why we lot line adjusted accordingly up there and included that part for Mr. Sutton and then the rest for us. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. And there's, Brad, what was it called? The railroad grade type road up there around the, right. And we wanted to go along that line in order to convey to him properly.
Now, don't say anything more. I think we have it clear.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us while you're up here?
No, ma'am. Thank you for everything. Only other thing I'd like to share is that Madeline's been amazing. She's worked with us because with us being such a large corporation, we've had some troubles. I think Miss Julia also knows with some signings and stuff. So, it was a little difficult because I've got people across the world that I have to deal with and to get it all done. But we did it. Thank you, Madeline.
Thank you. Are there any further questions, Madeline, before we open this up to the public? Nope. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to this item today? Nope. Seeing none, we will close the public comment portion for this item and come back to discuss the resolution.
Well, here we have a great title, but the text has a problem. And the be it therefore resolved that the planning commission, you need to take out approves the general plan amendment and And so be it therefore resolved that the Planning Commission recommends the Board of Supervisors approve, without the S, the general plan amendment based on the following findings. And as I say, have a exhibit showing exactly what the 11.07 parcel is.
Okay.
Then in finding number 2, I'm suggesting that what RP-1B implementation measure is a set of required findings. And to label it as evidence is, I think, confusing. What I'd suggest is that you have the sentence under number 2, the proposed general plan amendment has been processed in accordance with general plan implementation measures, and then eliminate the evidence holding and the evidence heading, and just continue that paragraph with the language you have below. The
Yes.
parcel is not within a designated community plan, et cetera. Then, after the end of that sentence, so the findings of approval, I think all you need to say is, and this is new language, in accordance with RP-1B, comma, then eliminate, this measure requires that before granting approval of a discretionary development application involving or adjoining the land designated resource production, and then cut back in, it's the following findings are to be made. So you have the sentence is in accordance with RP-1B, the following findings are to be made. And then you have your findings. Somebody else might disagree with me, so before you get this in concrete.
I believe that your suggestions might make it clearer. I did find it a little bit of a kind of circular thing going on there too, but I understood what it was. So I was not really disturbed by it.
Then when you get down to after A, B, C, and D, change the heading of findings to evidence.
Yes, I agree with that. Okay.
Then the only other thing I would have is, and by the way, you might take a look, is the, under number 5, I think it just, under evidence, the last sentence seems to cut off early. I think the amendment and subsequent lot line adjustment will allow the applicants to sell the adjusted parcel.
Yes.
And that's what I have.
Do you have anything, Don?
No.
I have one, and this just jumped out at me this time. So item 5, it says the proposed general plan amendment is in the public interest. And I'm not sure what evidence there is that it's in the public interest, but it's not contrary to the public interest.
Right. Yes. We were struggling with this one as well. But Julie, I know you had a,
Well, public interest is not a mandatory finding. There's nothing wrong with
Yes.
finding and just,
So would it make sense to either say it's not contrary to the public interest or remove it entirely if it's not a required finding? I just feel like it's a strange statement in this context of a private
Yeah.
piece of business.
Well, the evidence gives it's a
Yeah.
good summing up of
Right,
the
so
good
we
things
don't
we're
really
doing.
need it.
No, I understand. I think it's not contrary, it's a great idea.
Madam Chair, that finding is actually one of the findings we have used over and over again I think the crux of the finding is based on a response given to that particular finding, not necessarily that that finding is odd or weird in any way, shape, or form. So I don't know specifically what the finding to that is, but there are many ways in which we can tie the mining operation to a public benefit.
So, commissioners, would you prefer to either strike the item entirely or change it to as not contrary to the public interest?
I'd say not contrary
Yeah,
to.
that works.
Are you good with that, Madeline and Julie?
Yeah, I mean, I think this all comes, I think, from the provision, you know, that we're not supposed to make land use decisions that are contrary to the public safety and welfare. And so if we say it in that way, it's not contrary to the public interest. That fits more with what I think is traditional finding. You know, you can make whatever additional findings you want.
Perfect. And unless somebody has any further comments, we are ready to hear the recommendation.
Okay, staff recommends the Planning Commission approve Planning Commission Resolution 2024-005 as amended, approving the general plan amendment of an 11-acre portion of APN 064-015-007 from resource production to working lands, and approve the notice of exemption, finding that the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to Section 15061B3, and recommending the Board of Supervisors do the same.
Ready for a motion?
Your turn.
I would like to make a motion that we adopt the resolution with the changes suggested.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Thank you, everybody. You're
Thank
all
you.
set for now.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 3, 2023-053 and 2023-054, General Plan Amendment and Zoning Amendment for Eric and Melissa Cisco. And I think Catherine is going to take over. Although we do need to offer
Oh, yeah.
these folks, is the applicant here? Here. Hi. Would you like to continue this to a future date or go forward with it today?
We'd like to go forward today.
The understanding that the implications as far as there are only 3 members here, and what is it that we,
So we
if
need
we're-
all, it has to be a unanimous decision.
We want to go forward.
Yeah, thank you.
but I forget, if we don't have a unanimous decision, is it approved automatically? No, it's denied.
Right. 3 to approve. Yeah,
Okay, so, and under these circumstances, the result would be that the project is denied, right? And there's no appeal involved in this.
well, they could appeal it to the
Well,
board.
no, but I mean, if we had an appeal before us with only 3 members, then which way does that automatically go if we don't have a,
An appeal before 3 members
Be denied.
requires a quorum, which is 3, even if 2 are missing.
but the result when there is an appeal from a decision of the planning director,
We can wait and talk about this one when we get done with this.
That's fine.
Sure, because it's not
fine.
applicable to, we
No.
don't want to confuse you guys.
Yeah.
It's not applicable to you, so.
Okay.
All right, Catherine.
Good morning. I will be presenting Planning Projects 2023-053, a general plan amendment, and 2023-054, a zoning amendment for Eric
your
and Melissa
microphone?
Cisco.
Catherine, is your microphone on?
Yes. Do I need to? Is this better?
It's not on.
It's not lit
The
up.
light's on.
Is it? Oh, yeah. You have,
Well, then
you
we'll hear
have a
it.
very
It's like-
general lot.
Okay, so the project proposes to amend the general plan land use designation and zoning of an approximately 8.75 acre portion of APN 48-2-36, which on the screen, the portion for amendment is in gray and the entire parcel is outlined in red. From the resource production land use designation to a working lands designation, and from a general agriculture zoning to the residential agricultural zoning to facilitate a lot line adjustment with the adjacent parcel, APN 48-279, which is outlined in purple. The subject parcel is located at 4875 Campo Seco Road in Campo Seco, approximately 1,100 feet west of the Campo Seco Road and Chili Camp Road intersection. So a lot line adjustment application was received by the surveyor's office and is awaiting approval of the general plan amendment and zoning amendment to complete the process. The adjustment would take the 8.75 acre portion of the subject parcel north of Campo Seco Road, which is zoned A1 and has a resource production land use designation, and add it to the parcel immediately east, which is approximately 6.75 acres and zoned residential agriculture and has a working lands designation. If this portion of the subject parcel is amended, the boundary between the two parcels can be adjusted without conflict. So the landowners of APN 48-2-36 use the portion of the parcel south of Campo Seco Road for horse pasture and cattle grazing, but don't use the portion proposed for amendment north of the road because the road splits it and makes it difficult to use. The applicant, who owns the adjacent parcel, has stated that they intend to use it for agricultural purposes and pasture for their horses. The current resource production designation identifies lands for agricultural and other resource production activities and is intended for parcels 40 to 160 acres in size. And the proposed land use designation working lands is suitable for small-scale agriculture and other resource activities on parcels smaller than those designated resource production. Typical uses include small-scale agriculture, forestry, animal husbandry, livestock, and other similar or compatible uses. And the working lands designation is intended for parcels 20 to 40 acres in size. The zoning of this portion of the subject parcel is also proposed for amendment to be consistent with the zoning of APN 48-2-7, which it will be added to. The proposed zone is residential agriculture, which is intended to be a district in which an equal emphasis is given to residential and agricultural uses. It provides land for small-scale and personal-scale farming and ranching, as well as larger residential parcels, and is compatible with the working lands designation that's also proposed. The surrounding area is comprised of large parcels, mainly used for agriculture and single-family residences. Most of the parcels are zoned A1 with 3 residential agriculture parcels immediately to the east of the subject parcel and a handful of rural residential parcels further out. The land use designations in the immediate area are a mix of resource production and working lands. And further out, about a half mile in each direction, are rural transition designations. The amendment is to a less intensive land use designation and zoning that allows similar uses and is not expected to create conflicts with the surrounding area. The application was routed for 30 days to various county departments, local public agencies, and state agencies. A no comment letter was received from the Calaveras County Public Works Department, the Building Department, and the Calaveras Consolidated Fire District. No other comments were received. Staff also initiated the required 90-day tribal consultation period on September 21st, 2023 for general plan amendments pursuant to the requirement of Senate Bill 18. No responses were received during this period. Additionally, the notice of public hearing for the Planning Commission meeting was mailed to neighbors within 300 feet, and it was also mailed again to local Native American tribes. No comments were received after that routing. Excuse me. Okay. A notice of exemption was prepared as this activity is covered by the common sense exemption that CEQA only applies to projects which have the potential to cause a significant effect on the environment. The proposed amendments will result in less intensive uses being permitted to occur on the parcel, and additionally, the potential for residential development won't change as one single-family resident and one accessory dwelling unit are permitted per legal parcel in both zones. The portion of the subject parcel proposed to be rezoned contains natural vegetation and is devoid of water features and structures. And although the California Natural Diversity Database does identify special status species within a 5-mile radius of the subject parcel, amending the 8.7 acre portion to merge with the adjacent parcel will not permit any more intensive uses as stated earlier. The parcel is also not located within a designated critical habitat of any protected species in Calaveras County, and therefore staff finds the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act requirements pursuant to section 15061B3. So in conclusion, staff finds that the proposed general plan amendment and zoning amendment are consistent with the general plan and compatible with surrounding land uses and zoning. And although the lot line adjustment would result in a 15.5 acre parcel that would not meet the new minimum parcel size requirement for the working land designation, staff finds this acceptable as the county did assign the working lands designation to the existing 6.75 acre parcel in 2019 with the general plan update, and therefore we created the non-conforming lot. So the lot line adjustment would actually bring the parcel closer to conformance. The changes from a more intensive land use designation and zoning to a less intensive land use designation and zoning, and the proposed zone and land use designation are consistent with the current use of the property. The project as proposed will not have a significant effect on the environment and has been determined not to be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions?
Go ahead. Do you have one?
Curious about something. If we approve this and it's 15, would they be able to build a residence or something on that property, even though it's a smaller, I imagine they would, right?
Yes, yes. They're allowed to build a single-family residence and an ADU
Perfect,
on
okay.
any legal parcel, which this would be.
That makes sense.
There isn't already a residence,
There is already a residence, but
so they wouldn't be able to build another residence.
they could build an ADU, but the current landowners could also build a residence
Right.
and an ADU on that parcel as well.
Nothing is changing.
Nothing's
It's just a
changing, the
larger
density
parcel.
isn't changing.
That's what
Yeah, they're just kind of shifting it around.
Then I have one problem, and that is, in the staff report, under general plan consistency, the finding D under the implementation measure RP1B says the project will not hinder timber production, harvesting practices, mineral production, mining practices, agricultural production and practices, access to water and public roads, or otherwise conflict with the continuation of resource production operations or activities. And in your discussion of that on page 7, you're only looking at whether those will continue on the remaining portion of the property. And I think that and this does not affect the outcome of this project, but I think what finding D is trying to assure is that all of a sudden resource production lands aren't going to be used for something that you couldn't use. I mean, in other words, if they split off this parcel and it was zoned commercial,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden it would
Then they wouldn't be
conflict or hinder and everything else. So I'm going to be making a suggestion for a change in the resolution
Okay,
to indicate that the splitting off of the property even the part that is being split off will still be used for resource production stuff. So when we get to the resolution, I actually made it easier. I actually typed up
Okay.
a version. So that's the, I have no problem with what we're trying to do here. And I just have a problem with how we're doing it, or how we're talking about it. And I will have other suggestions with regard to the resolution when we get to that.
Would the applicants like to add anything to this discussion? No. Would any member of the public like to speak to this item? Nope. We will close the public comment portion for this item. Bring it back to the commissioners to discuss the resolution.
And if I could give you copies, you could take one and pass them on. I have mine, but
Thank you. I could have passed these over.
that's true. But you'd have to get one somehow. Oh, yeah. I don't have an, I didn't make enough? Sorry. Okay.
I was gonna say, if somebody needs mine, I don't have any problem with the wording.
Okay. With the resolution, once again, we have the problem of the resolution, both in the title and in the body, says that we're approving the notice of exemption in the general plan. And without going into exactly how to resolve that.
Yeah, I
you
can,
could-
I'll change them into,
She heard
look
the
on that,
other
yeah.
discussion.
The other one. Okay. Then, I think we ought to have an exhibit. I don't see that there is one.
There should be
here, Exhibit
at the
A.
back.
Oh, okay. I guess all we need is a reference to it.
Okay.
So the second whereas, as indicated in Exhibit A here too, comma, blah, 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 blah. Then when we get down to the number 1, it's the same language as
Yeah.
we proposed before. And so after we get those findings, and then of course the heading is evidence instead of findings, when we have the discussion on page 2. And we get down to D, and I'm sorry I didn't make a copy of this for you. As indicated, I have crossouts and italics and stuff, but as amended, if everybody agrees to it, this paragraph would say, the current owner of APN 048-002-036 uses the parcel for horse pasture and cattle grazing. Horse pasturing and cattle grazing are permitted livestock agricultural operations under both RP and WL designations and under RA zoning. The amendments and lot line adjustment will not interfere nor conflict with the continuation of resource production operations or activities.
Okay.
And I think that's it. That's it.
Any other suggestions?
So the public interest piece, I actually am fine with here because I think getting that parcel to the north closer to conforming is in the public interest.
Okay.
Anything from you? Okay, then we are ready for a recommendation.
You have to recommend.
For just the general plan amendment, correct? Or is it for the general plan amendment and the zoning amendment?
the recommendation to, we only have one resolution here, right?
You should have
Do we have
two.
a second? Yes, we do, we do. We,
Oh, yeah.
no, yeah.
Yeah, that's
They're
right.
just
So
kind of running together.
let's discuss the second one.
Yep,
On it, again, the title needs to be formed in the form of a recommendation.
Yeah.
The body is fine as far as it recommends. But then when you get around to page 2 and page 3, since we're only talking about a zoning recommendation, I don't see where you need all the discussion, starting with a paragraph at the bottom of page 2
Okay.
and continuing down through until you get to number 3 on the next page.
yes, we do.
Do we?
Yes.
Okay.
It's fine how it is.
Okay.
thanks. Unless you feel strongly about that, because the zoning still has to be consistent with the general plan and community plan.
This is a general plan and zoning amendment.
Right.
Yes. But they're two separate resolutions.
Right.
Just separate, I mean,
Yeah, everything has to be consistent.
Yeah.
Yes.
okay, well, if
Yeah.
it's good to have it in,
Okay.
good to have it in, but if you could change the form of what's on page 2 to what we did
Yeah.
earlier, that's great.
You clear on all that, Counselor?
Yes, I believe so.
So I think we can take these two items together.
I'm going to do a little wordsmithing, so correct me if I'm wrong. But staff recommends that the Planning Commission take the following actions of recommending that the Board of Supervisors approve the notice of exemption, finding that the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15061B3, and recommend that also approve the Planning Commission Resolution 2024-003 as amended, recommending the Board of Supervisors amend the general plan land use designation of an approximately 8.75 acre portion of APN 048-002-036 from resource production to working lands, and approve Planning Commission Resolution 2024-004 as amended, recommending that the Board of Supervisors amend the zoning of an approximately 8.75 acre portion of APN 048-002-036 from general agriculture to residential agriculture.
And excuse me, but since we've put back in those things from page 2 and page 3, D under evidence should have the same language it says. You want to add that to your recommendation?
Well, she said as amended.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So do we make two separate motions to combine them? Okay.
You can say
Okay.
it applies to both.
Are we ready to make a motion? I would like to make a motion that we adopt the resolution, both resolutions with the changes recommended.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None? So
There you go.
you're set for now. Thank you. Would we like to take a short break and then go on to our next item? Or you guys want to just get
Whatever
started?
you'd like to do, I'm fine with whatever.
Well, sometime in the next half hour, I'd probably like a break.
Well, let's take a break now instead of interrupting the
Yeah.
item.
Yeah.
Yellen. And we will begin with item 4, 2023-074, Appeal of Administrative Use Permit, AUP 2023-040. And we would like to offer the applicant the opportunity to continue this item since, as we discussed earlier, it will require a unanimous decision of the 3 commissioners present.
Great, thank you.
I think it needs to be very clear what the result would be if we don't have
If we don't
3.
vote to well, that is an awkward.
So because a quorum is 3 out of 5, basically, any decision that is made here to grant or deny the appeal would need to be made unanimously, except that if it's,
Yeah, exactly, that's what we're just saying.
yeah, I mean.
So it would,
basically, I think
the AUP would remain in
remain
place,
in
the
place.
appeal would be
The
denied.
appeal would be denied, unless unanimously there's a vote to uphold the appeal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Understood. So Kevin Sullivan, on behalf of Vertical Bridge, we want to move forward with the hearing today, in part because there are some shot clock issues at play. The FCC has set out some timelines for these types of telecom applications to be dealt with in a final matter. We're already kind of well beyond those. We haven't pressed the issue, but we're here today to get a decision from this hearing body. Thank you.
Thank you.
And excuse me, I'd like to mention that I had an appointment in Valley Springs the other day, which from Sheep Ranch is like coming from the other end of the world. And so I drove past the location, proposed location of the tower. I just want to make a public disclosure of that. Parked, looked at trees, drove around the general area, and went home. I'm told I need to make that disclosure.
All right.
Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission, good morning. The item before you is an appeal of a planning director's decision on an administrative use permit that was approved on December 18, 2023. After the approval of the AUP, an appeal was filed, and the appellants have since indicated to staff that they would want the appeal process decided later on during the year, most especially in June, because most of the people they wanted to be at the hearing would not have time to get away from work. So I think today we are here to discuss two issues. The first issue.
Excuse me, I'm sorry
Yes,
again. Should we get a waiver from the appellant?
Well, we have it in writing.
No, what I'm talking about is as far as the quorum question. Since,
Oh,
They said they wanted to continue.
No,
no, that was the
that's the
applicant.
original applicant,
It's
so
the
does the
appellant.
appellant get that same opportunity?
So if,
Even though they are the ones who brought this action.
they would be the ones that would suffer if we don't have a majority affirming
So-
the appeal.
Is Noelle Oliver here? Come on up.
I'm sorry, it just occurred to me.
Yeah.
It's not something, not something I thought about, and I don't think that our procedures address specifically the situation. The right to the continuance comes only from our planning commission procedures, so.
Right.
I think it's sort of, yeah, I mean.
But
I
they
guess
are
they
the
can have a
person
similar-
that
they are the
initiated
appellant.
this
I can
procedure.
understand and think it would be defensible to offer the same opportunity if the chair wanted to.
I want to. So, Mr. Oliver.
Yes.
You understand that it will require a unanimous decision of the 3 planning commissioners today. So we will give you the opportunity to delay this proceeding, not until some future.
Right,
throughout
I
the
understand
day,
that.
But until there are enough planning commissioners available.
And
Then we're going to delay it.
And that if we go ahead and you do not get 3 votes, the AUP is approved.
Correct.
Or
What's the appeal process after that? If I were to go through with just you 3 sitting there?
then it would go to you can always go to the Board of Supervisors.
Well, why don't we delay it until you have all of your members here so that we can talk to all of them all at the same time?
At least 4. So the
Yeah.
way
Well,
the
that's
procedure
fine.
works is you'll
That's fine.
get it up to.
That's perfectly fine.
Well, the next meeting when all 4 of us will be here, which I believe is the March meeting,
Okay, that's right, yeah.
right?
Be the first,
Oh,
first,
no,
No, there's an item.
no, I won't be here though at then.
You'll be here in March,
I'll be here in March.
so that
the
was,
first meeting in March would
And
be the time.
right, and then I won't be at the next meeting either, so. At the February meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Annette? Annette,
Help.
Yeah,
do we have any items on the 22nd?
we only have the one cannabis item.
Okay,
Yeah.
we have a planning commission meeting on the 22nd.
The 22nd.
Yes.
That would-
But we will be
I won't
without our
be here.
council. So the first regular meeting in March is the best
Okay. Are you here for that meeting?
in March.
Everybody's here for that meeting in March?
As far as we know.
Julie? Sir, could you come to the microphone, please?
Yes. Come on out.
If we wait for all 4 board members, is it still required a unanimous decision? And it would be 3 out of 4.
You got 3 out of 4.
votes.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But now I suppose we should go back to the applicant. And
Well, the issue is the timing, but I'm not sure that timing actually applies with an appeal. Come on up.
how would you be,
Our road here.
how would you be with the first week in March? Thinking of your shot clock comments.
That we're here today for the hearing, which was noticed and scheduled. We weren't aware of these potential issues. We've traveled for great distance to be here, and we do have the shot clock issues. That said, Bill, are you available sometime in the first week of March?
It'd be the second Thursday of March.
Due to mutual consensus with everybody involved, we'll go ahead with today.
Okay, well, then that settles that.
All
All
right.
right.
Is that? Okay.
Can we talk about that?
Sure, we'll give you, why don't you take 5 minutes?
Yes, thank you.
Come back. We'll take a break.
No problem.
Annette? Annette,
Yes,
second meeting for the planning commission in March. What is the date? Is it first meeting for the planning commission in March? What is the date?
that would be the 14th.
March 14th. We meet on Thursdays, second and fourth Thursdays of the month. Yeah.
Okay, maybe you should officially call it back in order and
Yes.
session.
So to be clear, you would like to continue this to the first meeting when 4 commissioners will be available to hear it.
Yes, I would like to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before we go to a motion for continuance and end this, I personally, I spent a lot of time on this, and I have things I would love to see from each side. And so as just a personal statement of mine, and this is not a requirement of the planning commission. You're doubting I can do this?
I'm not sure that you can't, because we're not hearing the item, that you can speak to it.
I thought we called the item.
It's a motion for.
It's a motion for.
We haven't made the motion for continuance yet. We called the item. And I think it would be helpful to both parties if they knew some of the directions I'm coming from.
I would concur, yeah. Go ahead, please.
So that means that we're opening this item, and are we going to allow other folks to speak to it? Because people took their time today, so the other option would be for us to go ahead, begin the item so that everybody gets an opportunity to say their piece while they took time away from whatever they had planned, and then continue it to the next meeting for the actual vote of the commissioners.
Seems to be a general consensus that that would be okay on our side.
Come on.
So I'll ask Deputy County Counsel whether if evidence is presented now when the fourth commissioner is not here to hear it, how would that fourth commissioner be able to vote on it?
They would have to state on the record that they reviewed all the evidence that was presented both on the video and handed out before they were able to vote.
And they review the video.
Right.
Yeah, they watched the film.
Okay, so that would be sufficient for them to participate in?
That's how
Okay.
yes.
All right, thank you.
Good point. Okay.
So under those circumstances, Gabriel should go ahead and begin the item, introduce the item.
I know this is really disjointed. Are we opening a public hearing today?
Yes,
Okay.
to allow the people that are here today to go ahead and speak.
And then not closing the public hearing
Right.
Correct.
until the next meeting?
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Seems the fairest to everyone who's here.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission. As I stated earlier, an appeal was filed for a director's decision approving an AUP for a cell tower in Valley Springs, specifically a 3.4 acre single-family residential property in Valley Springs, located at what is the address here? 5992 Clements Place. The proposed facility would be on a leased 40 foot by 40 foot area, and the facility would consist of a 90-foot monopine antenna. When the notice for this AUP was sent, we received quite a lot of comments from members of the public. And they raised specific issues, and those specific issues were addressed not only through the CEQA documentation, but also through other means of communicating back with members of the public. Most of the issues raised had a lot to do with health and safety regulations or health and safety impacts dealing with cellular facilities. Under the Federal Communications 1994 FCC rule, counties and cities are not allowed to make land use determinations solely based on the health impacts of radio frequency radiation. We received quite a few other comments regarding view, aesthetics, and things of that nature. And we came to the conclusion that based on all the records that we have and the analysis that we have made, that the findings that were made for the approval of the AUP were consistent with other findings we have made for AUPs in the past regarding these types of facilities. One contentious issue that was recently raised had to do with a alternative sites analysis that was actually filed as part of this application as far back as December of 2023. That alternative sites analysis is something that all cell tower purveyors are required to provide to identify why this particular location was selected. That alternative sites analysis talked about 4 different locations and the reason why this particular location was chosen. One of the overriding considerations for this particular location is the fact that it has access to utilities, ready access to utilities. But most importantly, this location fills a gap in the ability for the carrier to provide services to those people who reside in Calaveras County, and more especially within the area where this particular facility has been proposed. Counter to that, we have also received information about how other facilities and other locations are actually more appropriate for this particular facility. The appellant to this application actually resides adjacent to the property. He did not state specifically what his objection to the appeal is, but I gather that it has to do with the proximity of the facility to his property and the fact that if due to any unforeseen circumstances, should the tower topple over, it might hit his property. And also, most of the other comments have to do with the view impact, the aesthetics impact. The common practice in this industry is to try to make a facility like this fit into the environment, and what that includes might be disguising these towers as trees, pine trees, oak trees, palm trees, etc., etc. This particular facility would consist of a monopine scheme, which is when you looked at it, it would look like a pine tree. The industry has not evolved to the stage where we can actually take a metal structure and make it look specifically like a tree. I mean, we have to use our imagination as to whether or not this particular facility meets the aesthetics requirements of being able to resemble a pine tree from a distance. In addition to that, we received comments to the effect that some of these pine needles that are made out of rubber, the 4 pine needles that are made out of rubber, have microplastics in them, and those microplastics are bad for the environment. So, I mean, ultimately, what this really boils down to is the county being in a position whereby we have to weigh the interests of the members of its community and the requirements by federal law that we have to do. We can only do certain things in certain ways when it comes to telecommunications facilities. So the FCC rules are basically what have dictated to us that anything dealing with radio frequency radiation and the health effects thereof cannot be considered in denying a project of this nature. However, we can consider other issues such as aesthetics. Our county does not have a telecommunications ordinance which specifically gives us guidelines as to how we define what our aesthetic standards are. We have basically used general industry standards. In the attachments that you have, there are quite a few exhibits that have shown simulation of what this tower would look like in the environment out in the field. There, let me try to refer you specifically. Under the appearance and environmental impact, if you look at some of the submitted documents, you would see where the tower itself, how it would, to scale, look out in the field, and also in some of the original documents that we actually prepared for this particular project. The tower itself, on the site in which it's located, with the pine motif, is also identified. So the project went through an environmental analysis, which we conducted, which represents our independent judgment as to the impact of this particular facility on the environment. We came up with some potential mitigation measures which specifically deal with aesthetics, noise, and included certain mitigation measures as far as those items are concerned. So what the Planning Commission has before them this morning is to consider the merits of the appeal and also to decide whether or not the decision made by the planning director in approving the administrative use permit is consistent with practices in the past, and because the county has decided that cell tower facilities can be approved through an AUP process, not a CUP process. Additionally, there are certain types of facilities that are totally exempt, that are ministerial permits. This one is not one of those. Without belaboring the issue, I would end my presentation and let Commissioner Ladish kind of go into some of what he would like to see when this item comes back to the commission, or other members of the commission for that matter.
I think what would be best is if we went to public comment, unless the appellant.
We'll hear from the appellant
the
and
applicant.
from the original applicant first, and then hear public comment.
Okay, if then we can put off the questions that I would have for the planning director and for the applicant and for the appellant. That would take a whole lot of time. If we put those off until March, if that's permitted by the chair, I'd be happy to.
Let's, so is the appellant, yeah,
I'm sorry.
would you like to?
I've got a cold, so I'm not moving too fast.
Okay.
What would you like to know?
So you have 5 minutes to tell us about why you're appealing, what you believe the basis of the appeal is.
Well, that's pretty simple. Number one, if you make it look like a pine tree, there are no pine trees where I live. It's going to stand out like a sore thumb. But that's irrelevant because they can make it look like an oak, so that's irrelevant. The other thing is they're putting it 60 feet from my house. Nobody up there would want a cell tower 60 feet from their house.
So is it, I'd like you to clarify, is it 60 feet from the edge of their 40-foot square area to your actual residence or to the property line?
To my actual residence. So nobody would like that. I'm sorry, I really don't like that. It's going to lower my home values. Is the county going to cut my property taxes once my house value gets tanked? Probably not. They're still going to make me pay the same. So I think there has to be a better place to put it than 60 feet from my house. I know there are other people here that have other topics that they want to discuss, and that's fine because they're better equipped to do it than I am. My main issue is it's 60 feet from my house. I don't know how much noise they make, but I guarantee you, 60 feet isn't a long way. So I don't want to be kept up at night. I don't need a hum constantly droning. So I don't know how to say this without getting furious, but I want to be as nice and polite about this as I possibly can. There has got to be a better place than 60 feet from my house. Period.
I'd just like to ask you one question. How did you arrive at the 60 feet? Because the applicant will have different.
Well, he has his little pad 40 feet from the property line. My house, the corner of my house, not anything else, corner of my house is 20 feet from the property line.
20 feet from the property line. And
Where they want to put it, when the house was built, it was put on top of the hill that we live on and off to one side. So I only have 10 or 15 feet of property before I hit the property line. Where they want to put it, from where they're putting it to the corner of my house is 60 feet.
but then on their side, is it to the fence, to the edge of the?
Their 40-foot pad is 40 feet to the property line. I don't understand what you're asking.
It will come to your property line?
No. It's 40 feet from the property line.
Okay.
And I'm 20 feet from the property line. So wherever they put that silly tower on that 40-foot pad, but it's going to be 40 feet from 60 feet from my house. I don't know where everything's getting set up, but I mean, from their end to where my house starts, it's 60 feet.
Yeah, I think they show 60 foot 7 inches from the center line of the tower to the property line. Is that correct? So, yeah.
So then
So
I
he's
guess it's
right, it
80
would be.
feet. Well, it's
no,
80
it would
feet
be-
then if it's
it
from the
would-
center.
No, from the center, so it would be 40 feet from the edge of their enclosure, whether it's a pad or whatever it is, to the property line, and then you're saying you're just 20, the very minimum 20 feet.
To the house, yes.
Thank you.
So, I mean, I don't know. It seems like it could go somewhere else. As far as I'm concerned, CCWD's got a water tower that, why can't they go set it next to the water tower? That I don't understand. Then it doesn't bother anybody. And it's on top of a hill. So, those are my concerns. Not to mention, I don't know what it's gonna do to my dogs, my cats. Because if it drives them insane, that's not gonna be good. And who knows? I've never lived next to a cell tower. So, and I've never seen houses next to cell towers. So, that's my main complaint, is that. I think that's about all I have to say on the issue.
We may have more questions for you.
That's fine. You can ask me any question you like. I'm more than happy to answer them. Like I said, I got back from Vegas, caught a cold, so I'm not feeling too great. So
Hopefully, by the second Thursday in March, you're going to be feeling tip-top.
I'm hoping so. That would be much, much better. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. I assume you guys have some kind of presentation here.
Right, so Vertical Bridge is going to reserve until March 14th its full presentation. I just want to briefly address this distance issue. The site plans show that the pole is going to be in the center of this 40 by 40 enclosure. From the center of that enclosure to the nearest edge of the neighbor's or the appellant's house is approximately 115 feet. We can dial in that information a little bit better for the 14th, but it is not, we're not 60 feet away. That's just not what the information is showing.
And when you're dialing in the information, if you could do it also from the edge of the proposed monopine, because that's really the distance to what he would be seeing.
Understood.
Not just the center.
Okay, thank you.
Well, they also mentioned, he was saying something about the CCWD. Was that explored? I didn't. Was that one of the
I
ones
think
specifically I saw
they're
for on there?
deferring their
Okay.
presentation to our next meeting. But, so we're going to open the public comment portion of this hearing and let each of you guys come up and take a couple of minutes to tell us your concerns. How many people are interested in speaking today? Okay. And just in the interest of time, if somebody before you has come up and said essentially the same thing as you're going to say, we still want you to come up, but maybe don't repeat every word, just say, I agree with the person before. Unless you feel like you have a different spin on it, then we want to hear it. So who would like to speak first?
And if you could please state your name, please. Thank you.
Yes. My name is Justin Slavich. I live on Crossville Court, pretty much directly across the street from the tower. I also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, is it possible for us to get a map up on the screen? We don't really have anybody here to do that.
We have aerial photographs.
Yeah.
Put up.
Just so people can orient themselves. While you work on that,
Okay. So I also have a longer presentation I'll reserve for March, just in helping with the time.
So we don't, everybody will get a short presentation.
Yes.
Period of time, so you won't necessarily get another opportunity to speak in March if you speak today.
Okay.
You may, it depends on what kind of information comes out and whether it makes sense to give people another opportunity.
Chair, I just was wondering, is there a time limit per person that you're going to be imposing?
I was saying 2 minutes today.
Okay.
2 minutes today, okay.
Starting now.
Well, that's what if I only get 2 minutes today, I do not get to speak in March? Because if that's the case,
I
I'd
don't
rather.
know until we see what everybody's comments are and what kind of information, but the appellant will have another opportunity to rebut whatever comes out of the presentation. We may very well give everybody another opportunity. It just depends what information comes forward.
Okay. Well, that's what scares me, right? I don't want to give away something and give someone a month to prepare for a counter argument. The main point of my presentation is going to be financial, the financial impact on the local residents. Without going into the numbers, I did process every house within 1,000 foot of the property and the potential property value loss for each of those properties. And it does get substantially high. So I would like an opportunity to go in detail on that at the next one if possible, because like I said, I'd like to reserve giving away too much of what I'm going after.
One thing I'd like to point out is that for the next meeting, and as long as it's submitted by the Monday before the hearing, you can present something, evidence in writing.
Oh, okay.
With the list and how you arrived at those figures.
Okay.
You can email us your slides.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I will do that. I do want to jump back on the appellant's issue with how close this house is to the tower. While the tower is a 90 foot, and if they're saying it's 115 foot away, I don't know if you guys are familiar with dropping trees. When something falls, it doesn't stay in the same spot. They bounce, they slide, especially being on a hill next to his house. I'm guessing that would spear right through his living room and dangerous.
So I want to be clear, though. If you don't speak today, you are not the appellant. The appellant is Mr.
Correct.
Yes. So there is no guarantee you will have an opportunity to speak at the next meeting.
Okay, I understand.
But you can submit things in writing.
But you can, submit whatever information in writing. So
Understood.
if you'd like to go ahead and say whatever you have to say today and send us additional information, that's perfectly acceptable.
And just also, if there were amendments made by a party to something that was already presented, that would be another situation where you would have a opportunity to speak on what's changed.
Right.
Understood.
I know.
I'll stay broad. So what I did is I pulled 3 different survey articles one from the NIS, the National Institute of Science, they've done a survey and found that 94% of people they serve. 94% of people reported that they would not buy a house next to a cell tower where they could visually see it. And this is a survey, it doesn't mean much. There was another study done by Sandy Bond and Coeng on the impacts of cell tower on house prices in residential areas. And they found that houses within 1,500 foot of a cell tower, new constructed cell tower, would lose up to 20% or more in home value. That is the sort of the golden standard on studies in these things. And there was a follow-up study done by Reed Cummings and others called Wireless Towers and Home Values that found that houses within 0.72 kilometers, which is roughly 2,300 foot, on average dropped to 2.46%, with homes dropping an average of 9.78% within view of the cell tower. So these are backed up, very real concerns of ours, as a lot of my neighbors are retired. They plan on staying in these homes. There's a lot of younger couples like myself. And that's a huge financial impact, right? I think I will reserve majority of the rest of my argument for later, just hoping I get it. But I would like to break it down for you guys, and I will present the information by email to you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
And as much as you can, make that information applicable to this area.
Yes.
Who would like to speak next?
Hello, my name is William Edson. I live on Clements Place, basically across Clements from where the site is. And I have a small family. Me and my wife, we have another on the way, hopefully, soon here. And the FCC's made it very difficult to talk about certain things here. So I'm going to tiptoe around it without getting too into it. We all care about the health of our children, grandchildren. We care about mental health, physical health, emotional health. It's all important. We have a beautiful neighborhood. As you saw, you drove around the neighborhood, Mr. Ladish. It's a beautiful neighborhood, beautiful trees. Some lots you can see the river. And that's where I decided to raise my family, because it's a beautiful area, But the FCC ruling that Mr. Elliott spoke of earlier was it 1994 or 1996? Somewhere around there. It's a very old ruling. And this tower is a 5G tower, I believe, very new technology. So there's a lot of information that isn't. I'm more concerned with the lack of data rather than what we can and can't talk about, So that was the main. I just wanted to get people thinking about the possibility of, any effects that it could have, the sound, the sight, any kind of pollution, any effects that it could have on the many young families and children that are in the neighborhood. That's about all I had to say about it right now. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, I'm Natasha Hamilton. I live on Crowcell Court. I run a micro school near the tower. We're one property over. And I would like to ask the board if I could have permission to speak twice as a representative of so many of the families here.
You really get an opportunity to speak once.
Okay.
So you want to speak as the representative of a group?
Yes, because I lead the group and it's at my residence. And so many families made it out here today who probably are not going to be able to make it out a second time. I was hoping I could almost take.
Is there someone else from your group who could speak on their behalf?
We could do that. I was hoping to be able to.
Well, go ahead and speak now, and let's see how it goes.
Okay.
Try to get all the important points in there.
Okay, I'll try. I tried to make it short today. Thank you for the opportunity. As I said, I live one property over from the proposed tower. I'm opposed to the tower for many reasons at this location, and I'm asking for a more intelligent location to be considered. There are many potential options. I'm not the expert in that, but I'm sure other folks can speak on it. The tower would be unsightly, 90 feet sticking out among a grove of oaks and rocks. I can see the exact location from my kitchen window. It's on a little hill, and we're in the middle of a valley. And I'd like to also say that our service is good. It's sufficient. We rarely have interruptions, and overall, a lot of folks can agree that the tower is not needed. I brought many resources to share. I'm not going to go into details, but I brought a peer-reviewed, expert-written article showing a decrease of up to 10% in property values. I spoke with a local leading real estate agent, Darcy Case Watson, confirming this for our specific local market. I have articles naming cell towers as partial or whole causes in 3 California wildfires, Silverado, Woolsey, and Malibu Canyon. This tower would be right next to a heavily vegetated canyon along the Calaveras River. It's a huge fire risk. I also have a petition of 200 local folks who live in or frequent Valley Springs who are opposed to this specific location. Their voices should be heard too. But the most important reason I'm here is because I run a micro school out of my residence, weekdays 8 to 3. I'm concerned for the health effects of the tower on the nearby residents, but especially the children in the nearby residences and our micro school. This is a direct quote from a peer-reviewed article on PubMed. The World Health Organization recommended general measures such as reducing personal EMF exposure. They also recommended minimizing EMF exposure in schools, kindergartens, and any locations where children remain for a substantial part of the day. When this recommendation was ignored and a cell tower was put at an elementary school in Ripon, 4 children got cancer, which is higher than statistically expected. That tower was eventually removed, but there was a lot of horrible publicity for Sprint and the school board that approved the tower. We wouldn't want that bad publicity for those responsible for allowing a tower here, and we certainly wouldn't want our children suffering health effects. Let's learn from the past mistakes and do what's right. I know you can't consider health effects due to the Telecommunications Act, but there are plenty of other reasons to deny this tower here. What is the purpose of planning commissions and other overseeing government agencies, if not to keep huge, unsightly, and potentially harmful infrastructure out of our little town, out of our beautiful rural residential neighborhoods and away from children? We are for smart development of our little town, but this location is nonsensical. Please stop the installation of a cell tower at this location, and please consider a more intelligent location.
Thank you.
Do you need the petition of signatures?
We don't have somebody, if you could leave it on the desk right there. Or, yeah. Thank you, Susan.
It was up to 218 signatures last I checked.
Thank you. The next person.
It's the FCC.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Good morning, planning commissioners.
Good morning.
Hi. Colin Platt from Jubilee Springs. .com. You may not, some of you may not know, but we've been commenting on projects since 2005. I sent you some detailed comments. I'm not sure if you received them. Okay, great. Then I don't have to go over them in detail. I just wanted to.
If you're going to submit any more written comments that need to be within our rules.
I know, I tried. I couldn't, I just couldn't. I understand. I know the Monday before was be better. Thank you. I just briefly, I wanted to go through the findings, a problem with the findings, and I think Director Elliott understands my concerns there. And those could be corrected by addressing the Rancho Calaveras General Community Plan in the findings. Thank you. The alternative site, I would like to see that discussed in more detail. The alternative for quarry site is within the service area, the circular service area. Okay, the distortion, I've heard that before, sorry. The Ford site is within the service area. It does have power to it. So the applicant would simply have to power to where he wants to put in the tower. That is not in a residential area. It wouldn't upset people so much. It's a very viable alternative that should be discussed. Number 3, the setback discussion. I don't know where they come up with 115 because you take a 40-foot by 40-foot square, the middle of that is 20 foot in. You add the 40-foot setback from the property line, it's 60 foot, and then 20 foot to the house is 80 foot. So the middle was going to be 80 foot from the house. Regardless, the equipment is going to be closer, the noise is going to be closer to his house, 60 feet away from your front porch. That's an imposition. The aesthetics are terrible. The sound, there's an impact with the sound there. I've quoted the different charts in the general plan, and when you get down to the decibels that are allowed at the property line, the equipment would really come close at the maximum to reaching the limit of the decibels in a sensitive noise receptor with ambient noise levels in the area very, very low. There's been no attempts to soundproof the equipment. That is possible. I've submitted conditions with other projects where the sound is mitigated with conditions in this equipment. I'd like you to please address that. The aesthetic impacts everybody's talked about. The setback also, there's other locations on that property. It could still be on the property and not as close to the residence. It's a 3-acre parcel. They're located as close as possible to one side of the residence. Why not move it over away from that residence? Co-location and additional equipment, we think that needs to be addressed. There's this 40 by 40 equipment parcel is huge compared to other cell towers that are 15 by 15, 20 by 20. They've described the possibility for future co-locations in 3 parts of the 40 parcel. That will add additional equipment, additional noise, additional people up to service the equipment, serve traffic. So it has not been addressed as far as I can see in the initial study that the future cumulative impacts of co-location of equipment. I think I would address noise impacts to the neighbor that could be mitigated with conditions on the project. There was a question asked by a previous commenter in an initial study about power. I assume the PG&E is supplying power to this through the neighbor's poles on the driveway. There is evidently something in the book that says maintaining power, California law, maintaining power to telecommunications towers in the event of a power outage. And generator is going to be used for backup power on this site. Our understanding is that there needs to be backup power for telecommunications when PG&E goes out, which it does all the time. So we would like that question addressed, whether there will be a generator, a diesel generator, some kind of generator with fuel storage on the site. I think that's mostly what I tried to cover. Do you have any questions? Because I send a lot of information to you.
One question, and maybe this is more for the appellant, but is the tower uphill from the neighbor's property?
It's immediately level as far as I can see. It's all on top of the hill.
Thank you.
My house sits on top of the hill. It would be straight across from my house. The neighbors live down towards the roadside. We live away from the road, they live towards the road. They won't even see it due to the big pile of rocks that are right in the way. So, no, they will not see it.
So you're looking direct, would be.
I'm in direct side of it, yeah.
On a level.
Yeah, and it's basically level, give or take 7 or 8 feet of drop.
Thank you.
All right.
Anybody else?
Good morning. My name is Mark Jones, and I also work for myvalleysprings.com. I know an AUP is not required to be noticed, but something of this magnitude in Rancho, with all these people around, needs to be noticed whether it's required or not. It should have been in the Valley Springs News. You should have had something in the other paper, the Enterprise. And what this just goes back to me is, if you all remember what happened with the asphalt plant. The asphalt plant, they wanted to put it in the quarry. This is a decade or more ago. And we found out about it. There was no notification of it, anything like that. And then we had some attorneys come, and this thing turned into a big brouhaha. I mean, it was massive. People in Rancho got mad. Hundreds of them showed up in meetings. They made comments. They defeated the plant, just like they can defeat this. And they got so mad, they got together and they recalled that supervisor. He's gone, you know. And that's what, if you get people riled up enough, they'll get it done. So I hope that doesn't happen here, and you need to get more notification out when something of this magnitude happens in a housing district.
Good morning. My name's Stephen Merlis. I live in Valley Springs, and I'm a firefighter by trade. I have a couple concerns about the with the tower placement regarding setbacks within multiple properties. And my concern is that this isn't just empty parcels. There's residential dwellings within several residential dwellings within a few hundred feet from the tower. And I would estimate that our fire district doesn't have the manpower to guarantee if a fire started at that tower that these structures can all be protected. And so that's my main concern. I also have a couple other questions. Because with the fire department, it's all about, when we respond to a call, it's all about risk-benefit analysis. And so, this is kind of what prompts these questions. Did the county bring in a radio frequency consultant prior to making the decision on this project? And the other one is, will you make it clear the criteria the commission, that the commission would be able to hear and not hear during the next meeting, just so we can know what to expect?
Are you asking whether you'll be able to speak again?
Yeah, just with the overall, can people speak again a second time next meeting, or can we make that clear today so we know what to expect, so we're not broadsided next time?
I think it's likely that you will, because you won't have heard the presentation by the original applicant.
Okay. All right, thank you. My other question about the radio frequency consultant, anything about that?
Well, you have to keep in mind what the FCC has tied our hands as far as making any consideration of health effects of the radiation from this tower.
But the applicant did provide calculations.
Gotcha, okay. So that's upsetting that aesthetics can be taken into account, but not health, right? So that's my concern. But thank you, appreciate it.
So the person to talk to is your representative.
Congressional representative.
All right, I got it. All right, thank you.
Hello, my name is Sophie Lujan. I have been asked to come and speak on behalf of the Rancho Calaveras Property Owners Association. I am the president, and we have 4,000 properties in Rancho. 3,000 are developed. So although it is zoned residential, there are residents that live there. I've understand that we cannot talk about the health concerns, which I feel is one of the biggest issues, because we do have a lot of senior citizens, we have young families, we have young children. Our association, we have a clubhouse where families come, we're family oriented. They come and we have different activities. We have swimming pool and tennis courts and outdoor activities, as well as indoor programs that we have for young children and elderly people. So health is a very big concern that we have. With that being said, I also feel that as planning department commissioners, you have the responsibility to take that into consideration. I also believe that in the past, there had been San Joaquin County, for example, did have, they made a decision to put a cell phone tower in Weston Ranch, which is residential. And of course, we heard about the one in Ripon, and they were taken out. So it costs a lot of money to put it in, but it takes a lot of money to take it out as well. And whatever reasons there were, I'm sure there were a lot of reasons that are being discussed here today. So with that being said, I just wanted to point out that the clubhouse, the Rancho Calaveras Property Owner Association Clubhouse, we're a quarter of a mile from the proposed site. Being an association and having a board of directors of nine board of directors on our board, we make a lot of decisions concerning our subdivision. We were not notified. And that's what was brought up earlier by the gentleman, that not enough people have been notified of this proposal. And I think it's a very small percentage of the residents, and not only the residents, but the property owners, because we have over 1,000 properties that are not developed. So I think, in all fairness, I think that the Department of Planning should be notifying the association, because we do have a board that represents our property owners. So the planning department, but all the departments, I think, here in the county should be taking us into consideration. I think that our CC&Rs are being overlooked, and they're not being considered. So I think that the cell phone tower is premature. I think that it's something that the community has a lot of concerns about. And like I said, we are in a residential rural, but we have more residents than rural in our subdivision.
Can I?
You guys are speaking way too close to the mic.
Oh.
And
I'm sorry.
Really distorted. So
Oh, okay.
Can you please restate your name and
Yes.
don't-
Yes, okay, yeah. My name is Sophie Lujan, and I am the Rancho Calaveras Property Owners Association President.
And we understood everything you said.
Okay,
Ma'am,
is
excuse
that what
me.
you wanted me to repeat?
No, you're fine.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Could you please spell your last name?
Lujan.
Thank you.
I have a question for
Yes.
you. Is this parcel within the boundaries that the Rancho Calaveras CCNRs cover?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes.
And do your CCNRs preclude the installation of this kind of infrastructure?
I would, on the next meeting that you're proposing for March, I would like to bring a copy of the CCNRs so that you can see them. Of course, they were written, a long time ago, but there are
They are written as far as structures, not specifically a cell phone tower, but structures that are being built on the properties.
And are your CCNRs still in effect?
They are registered here with the county, yes.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
they're recorded here.
It would help if you would want to submit a copy of your CCNRs with a cover letter pointing to which ones you think might apply.
I just need to see.
Yeah, we don't enforce
We don't enforce the HOA CCNRs
No.
at the county level. Okay.
Yeah, you're still welcome to send them to us, but the county cannot enforce private agreements like that.
Mm-hmm, okay. Okay,
I was just curious for my own edification.
okay. Well, we would just like to be notified. You know, we do have an association, and we do have people, you know, our members and our property owners. So I just feel that, you know, we need to be notified in the future so that we can, you know, put the word out for our property owners of what is going on, and what is on, you know, on your
Are
agenda.
you aware that you can sign up to receive the agendas as soon as they are posted on the county's website? It won't tell you whether there's something of interest to you, but you will be able to go look at the agenda and see if there is anything of interest.
Okay.
So you can do that from the planning department's website.
Okay.
Madam Chair, just for the record, we do a 300-foot radius notification for all public hearing items, including AUPs.
That's state law.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, my name is Candy Struby, and I live on Kane Lane. I was just looking at this Exhibit A from the GDB. And all the streets are on here. I noticed that there is no picture of what the simulation of this tree would look like from Kane Lane. If you don't know where Kane is, it sits up over Clement's Place. And my house looks directly down onto the lot where this tree would be. 90 feet sticking up is going to be a horrible view for me. But I would, since we have time before the next meeting, I would like to see some pictures of a simulation of what it would look like from Kane Lane. And you're welcome to come to my house and take a picture from my deck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, I'm Ken Hamilton. I live on Crystal Court. I wanted to add to that, Mr. Ladish, you noticed if you drove around that and when you compared what you drove around and saw to the exhibits that you're provided with from Vertical Bridge, that they didn't add up. There were a few nice obscured photos.
I'm not saying what.
Okay, you may have.
I drove around.
So to her point, it's kind of conspicuous that there were not photos taken from Kane Lane, Hart Vixen, Baldwin South, Harding Road, Crystal Court, which is probably the most impacted, and Schmidt Place. So those were not submitted with your package from Vertical Bridge. That's where this tower would really, the aesthetic issue would really shine. So it would be good to see those photos. And to also piggyback on a question asked by the firefighter, I wanted to clarify whether or not the county hired their own RF consultant to ensure that this site was compatible with the best interests of the county, or if other sites outside of the search ring area had been evaluated. So can I get an answer to that?
Madam Chair, we are not required to do that, and we have not done that for other similar projects in the county.
Well, and I just also want to clarify that I think that all that, basically if the applicant is complying with FCC regulations, we're not allowed to go there, so that has not been part of.
Okay,
practice.
Fair enough. So the county does not have anybody on their side, doesn't know whether or not this is a good spot or not, right? That's fair to say. They just have to approve or
So
deny.
What the county typically does with any kind of project, I'm not speaking specifically to this, is if additional studies are required to prove compliance, then that typically the applicant is required to hire that person and provide those reports back to the county, which you see, there's biological reports, other reports in here provided by outside consultants.
We don't know as a county whether or not this serves the best interest of the county or whether a similar site that might cost the applicant just a little bit more money to develop might be a little further away. They might have to have slightly expensive,
So
more
we
expensive
did
equipment.
require an analysis of alternatives, and they did provide that.
Okay, so I'll save the rest for the next meeting, that analysis of, there are some holes in that analysis that I'll bring up next time. I'll save it.
And feel free to come forth with your own evidence of better site.
Oh, I've got some, yeah, I spoke to some of the other site owners and everything, so yeah, I've got more, but I don't want to, we'll save some. Thank you.
It, again, helps, if you think tactically, it will help you to submit something in writing before the meeting.
You got it.
So we can study it and we can compare what you have with what the applicant has.
I will do that.
But it needs to come in by the Monday before the Thursday hearing.
Okay, I'll try and remember that.
This is my guy to say
Yeah,
that.
so the Monday before the Thursday.
Yes.
Okay,
Monday before.
all right.
The earlier the better because we have big packets to read sometimes, and so you don't want us reading it at midnight the night before.
No, I don't, no.
That's today.
Yeah, no, I don't want any of that, no. Yeah, so I just wanted to gather that information to help so that during the next hearing, I didn't waste your guys' time. And I think that there's a lot of confusion here about what exactly y'all can hear and can't hear. There's been some stuff, about health. It sounds like you can listen to arguments about aesthetics. You can listen to,
Let me clarify.
yeah, please do,
You
please.
can say anything you want, but we can't, with regards to the RF, we cannot consider that in making our decision.
I understand, so-
Stopping you from talking.
Right.
It's stopping us from making a decision based on that.
It's stopping us from wasting your time, though. So what I'm trying to ask, and I'm trying to get out of you, is when we
Aesthetics.
when we regroup, when we come back, let us know, please, now exactly what we can come to you with, so that we're not wasting anybody's time. So it sounds like aesthetics, property value.
Oh, yeah.
Any of the CEQA items.
I would just recommend at this point, the commission allow the public to speak, and, there's attorney-client privilege advice about how.
Right. All I was going to say is you can see the list of CEQA items in the report. Those are the things that were
So-
looked at.
I appreciate what you're saying, and I understand the cause behind what you're saying, but I feel like the public has been left in the dark as to what we can and can't say. We might all come and say the same thing over and over again, and, what's the point? We're just wasting our breath.
The public can seek their own legal representation as well to help develop the arguments.
Okay, all right, well,
The health effects of the transmissions is something we can't base any decision on.
fully understood. I was just trying to.
That's about it.
I was just trying to get to specifically RF. So yeah, I was just trying to get to what you can consider. That way we don't come back wasting the time. It sounds like you're not allowed to even say that. Okay.
I'll try to help you out on that in a few minutes.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak today? Come on.
Thank you so much for allowing so many of us to voice our opinion. My name is Erin Cannell, and I am a mother of 2 children who attend Acorns to Oaks Farm School twice a week. And so I just wanted to bring a more personal note. And I know there's certain things you can't hear, but as mothers, we make decisions based on the evidence that we have. Those decisions were made in the early 90s, and as homeschool moms, we primarily use this site, Acorns to Oaks, as our children's sole social interaction. After COVID happened, many of us pulled our children out of school for fear of their health and safety, and we had to make drastic decisions on how to make sure that their emotional and social development wasn't hurt. We made really tough decisions, financial decisions, to keep them home, and then to find safe, small micro schools where we felt they would be safe to interact socially with families that we know and trust. And so it's taken a lot out of our pockets, a lot out of our time. Many of us who are professional women cannot work because we've decided to stay home and send our children to school, Acorns to Oaks, once or twice a week so that their emotional and social health would be, that's our primary objective, really. And so it's taken a lot of our financial and personal time. Acorns to Oaks Farm School has been a savior for us. The kids don't go every day, most of them, but they do attend enough that they're socially and emotionally very healthy. My children have attended for 3 years, and if we hadn't have had that, I don't know where they would be. I know children in public school right now who are forced to stay home and be on Zoom lessons. I also work for Valley Mountain Regional Center, where I work with students every day, 0 to 5, who did not get to go to preschool, like my children got to go twice a week because I paid out of pocket and sent them to a small micro school where their safety would be preserved and also their social integrity. And so the consequences of the cell tower are very real, whether or not you can hear the health concerns or not. The school will indefinitely, I can't speak for Natasha, but I know out of her own concern for the health and safety of the children would probably close, and my children's school would be closed probably for good. It's not easy to find a site that is so perfect for a micro school as the one that she currently operates. And I know dozens of other mothers who I've spoken to, and some are here today that I feel like I can represent, they would lose their school. And these are homeschool children who do not have a lot of opportunities. So the real consequence of the cell tower is that the school would close and dozens of children for sure would lose out on something that's been a huge emotional, social, and educational boost for them. And they don't have other choices. It's a very small number of children, 50 to 60 that attend the school off and on, but I think that their voices should be heard. And many of them have been very patient today, and I'm very proud of them for coming and attending. And so thank you for hearing me out. If you have any questions, then feel free to ask.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Clappers, would you like to speak? Come on.
And this is a financial question. Why did it cost me $500 to file an appeal? I'm just curious. I mean, we paid it. It's the money's going to be recouped somewhere. But I just want to know why I had to pay $500 to appeal.
Well, the Board of Supervisors sets that.
Then I'll ask them.
But
No, I'll ask them.
they're based on a study of how much staff time goes into.
Okay, I'll ask the Board of Supervisors.
Are you coming up? Is there anybody else? Want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to speak. Nobody else? Then we're going to close this portion of the public comment section of this hearing and bring it back to the commissioners. Gabriel, is there anything you want to say before anybody here talks?
Madam Chair, I wonder if the applicants themselves have any additional information they would like to provide, or would you rather defer to the meeting in March? Is there anything on the go that you can provide to the Planning Commission today?
No, for now, we will reserve our additional information and presentation for March 14th.
Commissioner Laddish, I know you have some things to say.
Well, it's, one thing that needs to be clear is that we are sitting here hearing this matter. We are not detectives that are going to be going out and finding evidence. It's up to the applicant, and it's up to the appellant and the appellant's allies to provide us with a record, a full record, upon which we can make a final decision. And with that in mind, these are just a few things that I personally am looking for. And this is not any sort of an order that they must be provided or anything else, but I just thought it would be helpful from the appellant and the other members of the community that are supporting the appellant. I would love to see substantial evidence, evidence that is very specific to this particular issue, that placing the tower in the proposed location will have negative economic effects on the general welfare. And if possible, and I don't see how this would be possible, proof of loss, proof of a loss of values should distinguish between losses due to radiation concerns and losses due to aesthetic or other concerns. I don't know how you would divide that off, but if you can, that'd be great. We need substantial evidence that if you find this is to be true, substantial evidence that an alternative site would be available, reasonable, and less intrusive than the proposed site. Not just the opinion of people on the street, but if you can come up with particulars, it would be great. Substantial evidence regarding the service gap. We heard from somebody today who said they receive signals just fine. What can you provide us about whether there is truly a service gap in this area? We need proof that the proposed tower location is within the Rancho Calaveras portion of the Rancho Calaveras Jenny Lind Community Plan. And as much as you can provide us, if you can provide us proof of appearance of the proposed tower from the nearest neighbor and from all these other locations that were mentioned today, if you could provide us with proof of what the tower might appear, or at least where, a picture of the location of the tower from these various vantage points. From the applicant, we need a clarification about backup power, and how is that going to be provided, and what would be the acoustic effects of backup power. We need to have proof of good faith effort to identify all reasonable alternative sites. In other words, just what criteria did you have involved? We know you've given us several alternative sites and their pluses and minuses. How did you narrow things down to those 4 sites? And just more edification on that point. Proof of a good faith effort to evaluate which was the least intrusive of the possible alternatives. We need, I would welcome on any of these, proof of exactly what service aspects were involved and the extent of their involvement in concluding that there was a service gap. What are the shortcomings that, and what's the geographical spread of that? Now, maybe your exhibit B to your letter brief with explanation might provide that. Whether the appellant would be willing to provide a more realistic pine replica for the tower. If not, a proof that a more realistic pine replica would not be feasible.
Or blue oak.
Yeah,
I don't know of
right.
any.
Or with other tree. And whether the applicant would be willing to better screen its fencing and its equipment from the neighbor's view and hearing. And then anything that you could provide us as far as, and this goes for both the appellant and the applicant, legal points, arguments. If the proposed tower location is in Rancho Calaveras portion of the Rancho Calaveras Jenny Lind Community Plan, what is the legal effect? How does that affect what we are considering here? And would the county retain its normal ability to impose reasonable conditions? And then finally, you'll be glad to know, in determining under ordinance 17.83, which is the administrative use permit ordinance, whether the tower's construction will potentially affect the general welfare by reducing business and property values, can the commission properly make its determination without considering exactly what concerns might be driving customers and purchasers to withdraw their patronage or to lower their purchase price offers? In other words, can the commission look at the economic effects of the construction of the tower, no matter what the concerns might be that are leading to those effects? And I realized, to the representative of the applicant, I'd be glad to go over these more slowly with you if you'd like. If you've got it, that's great. Anyhow, that would certainly help me frame the situation and provide me with tools for considering both positions. And as I say, the Planning Commission is not a fact-finding group. Well, we find facts when they are brought to us. That's what we need. I really appreciate everybody's participation today and look forward to, really pretty much look forward to the next meeting.
I would like to make sure that we are able to get some aerial views up on the screen so that the public will have be able to see what people are talking about. And I don't know if the original applicants had planned to have a PowerPoint or slide presentation. So yeah, great. And we will most likely hear you first at the beginning of the next meeting. So get that information out there. And I really just want to compliment everybody for how polite and patient everybody has been to one another. So, really. And we apologize for the awkwardness and the fact that we're missing a commissioner. Because I know that people took time to get here and time away from other things, and we appreciate you being here.
I think it was somewhat confusing. I just want to also clarify that the planning commission procedures are available on the planning website. Not everybody looks at them, but it does talk about what happens when there's only 3 commissioners present.
Where do we submit additional information? To the planning.
It's on the planning department's website. How easy it is to find is a whole nother question. Is there some way that we can put those procedures somewhere easy for people to find?
Absolutely. Yeah, we will. Thank you.
But it is, you submit it to the planning department, and then it provides us with what they've got.
Right.
Via email.
Right, you can
Email's
email
fine.
us, yes. Email the planning department, they distribute it to us, or there is a way to do it to us, but you can't do attachments when you do it directly to each of the commissioners, so it's easier to send it to them and let them take care of it.
and ask them to forward it to the commissioner.
Right. So I believe that we are,
I think I have something to say.
okay, go ahead.
Thanks. So I just want to say that we were all appointed to be objective, not subjective. And that is really, really important. So that being said, whatever you can provide us, both sides, that are going to help us to be objective, we need that submitted so that we can review it. I can tell you that we all agonize over every decision we make like this, because this is an important one. So we need both sides to provide us with everything they can to support their side so that we can make a objective decision based on your information that you've provided us. That's very important because these decisions are very tough to make. There's always two sides and we have to balance both.
Can I say something?
Come on up.
Real quick. There's the two sides being represented here is the community, the neighbors, the people that live near it, and then there's the one property owner and the cell phone company, correct?
We have had communication from another neighbor that was in favor of the tower.
All right, thank you.
And I would like to thank all of you for coming out too, because this is what it takes to get things done. If you don't like what's going on, we need to hear from everybody.
And just to also clarify, as far as if the question is who are the parties are the planning department and the applicant and the appellant. Those are, so we have three parties in this case.
Okay, so I'm open to a motion to continue this item to March 14th, I believe.
I so move. How's that?
I will second.
You so second.
Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to the continuation? No.
And we're continuing the public hearing, not just the item.
Yeah,
this particular
we're
case.
continuing the entire thing, so there will be opportunities to comment. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Who's Mark?
My best stuff in meeting today.
We adjourn.
No, we're having, we're not
I
adjourned.
thought you were gonna say something. Okay, let's let them get
Yeah.
cleared out, and then you don't have any informational items. Let it, so we can hear.
Do you want to try to do the swearing yet?
Sure, that'd be fantastic.
Just note, my language in the agenda
We don't have.
needs to say swearing in. It meant to say elect. So I apologize.
need
We
to have
don't have to have it sweared in.
We have to do it next.
Sorry, it's not on the agenda, is that correct?
On the agenda, I put swearing in of. I meant to put elect.
Oh.
So we don't need to swear in the chair and the vice chair.
No, we're not done.
Okay.
We're done with that. Okay, commissioner reports.
We're continuing the meeting now. Not, this agenda is over.
Thank you.
Thanks. I have nothing to add.
Me either. Planning director, do you have anything you'd like to report?
No, I think it's just important that we always get a complete packet.
Yeah. Planning director reports?
None. Thank you.
Okay. Then I think we are adjourned at 3 minutes to noon.
Well, because we deferred
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.